Welcome, friends, to another exciting episode of A VGM Journey, and I'm your host, The Messenger. The track that we're playing into today's show is title music from the game Pro Sports Hockey, and it was composed by Takeshi Ichida. Got a real fun show for you guys, and normally I hold off on playing then and nows until a little later in the show, but I decided to play it a bit earlier, and that's going to be our next segment. And this one's going to be on the track First Steps from the game Rayman and Rayman 30th Anniversary Edition. It was originally composed by Remi Gazel, and this arrangement was done by Christophe Heral. Those two tracks that you just heard, they were First Steps from Rayman and also First Steps from Rayman 30th Anniversary Edition. It was originally composed by Remi Gazel and it was arranged by Christophe Heral. First thing I need to say is that it is really awesome that we got a brand new Rayman anything. Even if it's just a collection of different ports of the original Rayman with an arranged soundtrack, I think it's just good that there's something new out there with them. And I like the soundtrack for the original game, and I think that this arranged soundtrack for the 30th anniversary is also really good too. Though a lot of people have been pretty upset that the original soundtrack was completely replaced with this arranged soundtrack, which it's mostly arrangements, though weirdly a few of the tracks were replaced, and I think that's where a lot of the issues are. So I think when it comes to the actual arrangements themselves, I think Christophe Heral did a really good job, and it definitely has that Rayman sound to it. And I also thought that both versions of the track, First Steps, is a really fun way to start the show. And I am curious on what you guys think. Definitely let me know. We're going to move on from one classic game to another. This time, we're going to play something from Columns 3, Revenge of Columns. The track is Pemo Kuroto, and that this track was composed by Morihiko Akiyama. That track that you just heard, that was Pemo Kuroto from the game Columns 3, Revenge of Columns. It was composed by Morihiko Akiyama. I think when it comes to puzzle games, I think Columns is pretty underrated, especially with its music. And the thing that I really like about this track is that it is a callback to the first Columns, specifically the track Clotho, which with that track, it's more slower paced and it's got more of a, I want to say like a religious slash prog rock kind of sound to it, but definitely much slower. And that this one, Pemo Kuroto, I mean, it starts off just like it, but then it goes into its own thing and it's so much faster. It's definitely more energetic, which it could stress me out a little bit as those columns of jewels come down and you're trying to match three in a row to make them disappear. I'm not saying that the game is as good as Tetris or Dr. Mario or anything, but Columns, specifically Columns 3 Revenge of Columns, which I gotta say that's one of the best titles for a video game ever, I think it's a damn good time. Especially if you get a second person to play. Who knows, I might go play that right now if I wasn't doing the show. But I do believe that it is time to move on to our next track, and I've been sitting on this for about 3 months now. And that this is coming from Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. The track is Sylux, and it was composed by Kenji Yamamoto. That track that you just heard, that was Sylux from the game Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and it was composed by Kenji Yamamoto. Despite Metroid Prime 4 Beyond being kind of a polarizing game, I think most people can agree that the soundtrack for it is pretty good, and that this boss theme for Sylux, it really has a nice blend of all the Metroid musical staples. Like, there's some nice guitars, there's that weird alien like choir, the whole 9 yards, and even more. And fighting against Sylux himself is actually one of the highlights of the game that I would say. Definitely somebody that's on equal footing with Samus. I am a bit curious on how time is gonna look for this game. I guess only time would tell. We're gonna move on to our next track, and that this is coming from the game Dark Cloud 2. The track is Venetio, and that it was composed by Tomohito Nishiura. That track that you just heard, that was Venetio from the game Dark Cloud 2, and it was composed by Tomohito Nishiura. And that's going to just about do it for the show today. If you like what you've been listening to, have your friends check out the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and we're also on TerraPlayer, which is the home for various different video game and video game music podcasts. You can email the show at vgmjourney@yahoo.com, and you could also check us out on both X and Blue Sky at VGMJourney. We also have a Discord server for the show, which I will provide a link for that in the show notes, where you can hang out with your fellow VGM journeymen and talk about games, music, and even look at some cool art. We're also going to play things out with one more track, and I think this is a pretty good one. And that this is the staff roll from Street Fighter EX2 Plus, and it was composed by Takayuki Aihara, Shinji Hosoe, and Ayako Saso. Have a good one, everyone.